Katie Kelly with Long & Foster Real Estate, here with Lori Orders of By the Bay Designs, bringing you another happy hour haven. So last week we talked about choosing fabrics and how to kind of put together different patterns and things like that. So we thought a good point moving forward would be whether to reupholster or buy new with certain pieces of furniture. So let's start with just your main piece of advice regarding whether to reupholster or buy new if someone's contemplating that decision.
Okay, I get asked that question a lot. So kind of the rule of thumb is if your piece is 10 years or younger, it's not worth it. They don't make things like they used to. It's probably not a good investment to reupholster. If your piece is, let's say, 10 to 15 years old, it's in good shape, you've inspected the springs and the arms and the cushions and all that, it probably is well made and it's worth it.
Yeah, that's interesting because I think a lot of us would think the opposite.
It would be, less expensive to reupholster, but it's not. It can be very expensive.
Right, and if something's not made well, it might not be worth reupholstering it.
Right.
And we like our bargains these days.
Right,
Right?
absolutely.
On that note, we have an ottoman in front of us that I actually reupholstered fairly recently. Probably bought it 10 to 15 years ago, if I'm doing my math correctly. And I love it because it opens, and I figured I wasn't going to be able to find one for a good price.
With the same function.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I picked a fabric that I really love. I kind of splurged on the fabric, to be honest with you, and had it reupholstered with a cute little piping of teal. And it cost me about $600, which is a lot, but I figured I probably couldn't replace it for that.
Right, and that's another thing too. I know I just said the 10-year mark and then the 10 to 15. Oftentimes we have pieces in our homes that are sentimental. And if you have a piece in your home that's sentimental, it really doesn't matter whether it's worth it or not as far as like good quality. You're going to want to keep it, so just go for it and reupholster.
Okay, good advice.
Yeah.
So we have some other examples here that kind of touch on, different reasons to reupholster beyond what you just said. But before we go to those, let's talk about how to choose a fabric that's durable.
Right, so that's a great question. So if you're going to reupholster anything in your home, the one advice and one thing that you need to know is how to choose a fabric that's going to last. So all fabrics out there go through a test, so to speak, which kind of rates their durability.
Okay.
And it's the amount of rubs that it can withstand. So for example, if you were, let's say, walking into a hotel lobby, okay, that's a commercial building, the rubs on their fabric and their upholstered pieces in the lobby are between like 100,000 to 250,000 rubs.
Right.
Whereas
so much traffic.
Yeah, so much traffic, right. Whereas residential, you don't need that many rubs. It can be, anywhere between 15, let's say 50,000 rubs.
Okay.
But one thing that would be helpful for people wanting to do this is that when you go to purchase your fabric, wherever that may be, through a designer or through a store, you'll look at a lot of fabrics, and then on the back of all the fabrics, there's like, a little, I know you guys can't see this, but on the back of the fabric that you're sampling, they should have the test of durability. In other words, it should say this fabric, the rubs was, 20,000, whatever it be. So look for something, that that says that's how much it is, so you know.
And probably based on, like, is it your main sofa or the sofa no one ever sits on?
Absolutely.
Different.
Right, and as a matter of fact, some of the fabrics will also say not for reupholstery. It'll actually say on there just for like a window treatment.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Also, Lori helped me with some chairs in terms of, I don't know if this is a different rating or not, but spills and stain resistant.
Right.
We have a chair over here that has a blue base, and I know you helped me in terms of what the criteria for that fabric should be.
Right. So if you have small children, pets, even if you're recovering chairs for like a dining room or a kitchen, you want to make sure that you get a performance fabric. And one of the newest ones out now is called Krypton. And that is, it's fabulous. I mean, you can literally spill wine on it and it bubbles up and you just kind of wipe it up. So that's really important. If you're going to go ahead and spend the money to reupholster or redo, you want to make sure that you're getting a good quality fabric.
Okay, and it's held up, so it's a dining room chair. So we have two examples of chairs that I recently did, and kind of some different reasons. This one over here was for my kitchen, and I found this chair on clearance, two of them actually, but I didn't like the seat.
Right.
So I looked underneath and realized you could screw out the seat, and so I just picked my favorite coral fabric that I love.
Yep.
And
easy to do.
Yes. I actually didn't do it myself, even though I knew I could. But it's easy to do yourself.
When you're out there at Home Goods, if this is something you think you want to tackle, just flip the chair upside down and look. If you can pop that seat out, You can fabric, staple gun it, you're off to the races. Easy.
And then the other idea I had in my head, and sometimes you can't find this, was I wanted a chair where the seat was one fabric, the front of the back of the chair was one, and the back of the chair was another.
Let's see if I can show you guys. I'm going to stand up. Let's see if I can do this. So this is like the navy blue and the floral
in the front.
And then if you spin it around,
it's got a pretty coral.
It's got the coral. Same thing as it. Yep.
So I couldn't find that anywhere, so I had to have someone. I just bought the chairs and paid an upholsterer to make it. Probably a little more than I wanted to spend, but for a piece that I felt like was unique, it was worth it.
Absolutely.
So I guess those are the kind of factors you need to consider when deciding.
Yep.
Any other advice you have on upholstering or buying new?
Just before you go out and do the splurge, make sure you look at the piece you're thinking of reupholstering. Check the cushions to see how firm they are. Look at the spring system. Look at the arms, things like that to make sure
it's worth it.
Yep.
Makes sense. All right, there we go. Another happy hour haven. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week.